My name is Jade Pollard-Crowe, and I am a British Jamaican queer art space activist here in Cambridge. I was born here, but then I've lived in Sheffield and Vancouver, where I did my master's in the Institute for Gender, Race, Sexuality and Social Justice, which really basically informs everything that I do. And my undergrad was in fine art, which also informs everything that I do. Also, in a democracy, accountability needs to be there. So it's not a case of we voted you in and now you can do whatever you want. Actually, we need to still be able to hold you to account, even if you are our elected official. If this doesn't seem egotistical, I actually had a really nice message from someone who I thought, okay, actually, I think that really helps. So this individual who actually reached out to me, they're non-binary and I think just like somewhat struggling a bit. They're also an immigrant here in Cambridge, and they reached out to me and they said, "Dear Jade, I have been wanting to connect with you for a long time. Our paths almost crossed many times at the Kite Trust, Royal Vauxhall Tavern, Deep Trash, QTI Coalition of Colour, and I've always wanted to take your zine making, collage, art workshops, but never managed to. I'm such an admirer of your work as an artist, as an activist, and as a scholar, and more broadly of you as a person with wonderful values and ideas which resonate with what truly matters to me. I find how your artistic and activist practice come together very powerful and empowering, and I love how this union benefits both areas and ultimately the world. I'm truly thankful for this vital work," which I mean, that was an honour to receive. The reason I selected that message though is because when I'm looking at this and I see, okay, the Kite Trust, so I've got a long running history with that charity actually. Um, so as a youngster, back when it was sexuality and not the Kite Trust, and for anyone listening, this is Cambridgeshire's largest LGBTQ plus um, youth charity. So when I was a youth, we set up a program called the Young Trainers Project, in which we'd actually go into school and deliver workshops on sexuality. Um, so we were only actually a couple of years older than the young people that were in our workshops. And one of the things that really I think motivated me was the idea that you, as an LGBTQ plus person, have a right to exist in society at all levels, which I think is really, really important in a democracy, that people understand that they get to exist at all levels and that they're not barred from any aspects of life. And that includes living safely and happily in a home. And when I'm also looking at this and I see, for example, QTI, where I did quite a lot of organising here in Cambridge with other QTI BIPOCs, because I've grown up in Cambridge and I had quite a lot of like racism in my early days, um, and that I think really informed my ideas of not feeling welcomed in, especially like galleries and the museums here, and also in other public spaces. Again, and this is more recent, this was since COVID, this with QTI. I think that really, really, when I'm reflecting on it, whilst there was a multitude of reasons I got involved in that, from what I believe I can offer other people and what they can offer me, from the communal aspects. Um, it's also the fact that I need to help other people establish that innate belief within themselves that they are just, as welcomed, and they have just as much right as white, cisgendered, heterosexual men. And that, again, is something that I think is key to democracy. More recently, I've been doing quite a lot of work actually with our museums and our galleries using my experience. So I was the Celebrating Black History in Cambridge intern, where I made my zine. And I have also been involved with Black Atlantic and Rise Up, Resistance, Revolution and Abolition. Word of mouth goes quite a long way, and people seeing other people that they know and trust in certain positions goes a long way in allowing people to think, okay, this space is for me. So I know that my involvement within these spaces has opened the door for other people literally to just walk into the buildings, and that's the reality that we live in, that some people do not feel that they are welcomed or that they have the right to go there. So that is something that I continue to try to work on in everything I do and in my own arts practice. And I was really, really delighted that what are called the Atlantic Explorers, which have been a youth group that have been working with the Fitzwilliam, and also from Soham Village College, they actually invited me to a youth day that they'd curated. Again, that's an example of democracy, them getting to curate this. So this is what I mean about it existing at every level. Um, I was able to come in and talk with them, but also read from my zine and give them copies of my zine and interact with them in that manner. And I really wanted that from my zine. I wanted it to resonate with people who have had this knowledge withheld from them through various ways. Is that this is needed now more than ever because our democracy is hanging on a cliff edge. You could see it with the introduction of the Police and Crimes Bill. You can see it with the fact that people standing there protesting and not saying anything have been arrested. You can see it with the fact that within that bill, not making noise was in it, not causing a disturbance was in it. So you ask yourself, well, I mean, what would be the point of a protest if it's not disturbing or agitating? And if we continue down the road that we're going in, we are going to sweep into fascism and autocracy. There are massive inequities in our society with education. And how can an uneducated and uninformed peoples know what they're voting on and know what they're voting for? How can an uneducated peoples not be manipulated and not be taken advantage of by insidious characters? Our education is not representative of the true nature of colonialism and empire, which I would argue informs everyone's democracy across the world. Therefore, people do not necessarily have the knowledge of the context of what is happening in their own country or in their own lives. And that is a very, very deep point to make, but I mean at a more obvious and surface level, the percentage of people who enter our incarceration systems who are illiterate, i.e. they can't read and or they can't write, are really, really high, and you can look that up. I'm not pontificating, those are real statistics. And I think that class and education continues to impede democracy. I would also say, when we talk about by the people, for the people, should majorities always be able to have the say on what is going to affect a minority? And so we can think about the fact that majorities can be formed of oppressive groups and or groups that are not directly affected by what is being decided upon. So good examples of this could be looking at the US, where Roe versus Wade has been overturned. And so you have swathes of the population who are biological men, or swathes of the population who are maybe over the age that they're ever going to have children ever again. Or you can think about gay marriage. Why are heterosexuals being asked to vote upon gay marriage? Why are people who are not from the trans community being able to vote or have an opinion on medical care that doesn't affect our bodies? I think that's a massive fault line. Another fault line would be money and like rich. Okay, how to put this? Like, rich people are being able to buy their way out of like illegal activities, as we've seen with so many scandals. That the very fact that that can happen, but also what that does to the trust that people have in this system, is detrimental to democracy. Whilst democracy isn't inherently about left and right, I don't shy away from the fact that the left have provided freedom, opportunities, equality. These are things they've always run after. And the right has always been about stripping these things back and taking them away. And something that really, really gives me a lot of hope is that 73% of 18 to 25-year-olds voted to remain in the EU. And that gives me a lot of hope. When I look at groups of young people, I see so much cultural and ethnic mixing across race and also ethnicity. That really, really gives me a lot of hope. And I think when I look at what I hear and what I see young people saying about the environmental crisis, what I see about when I look at young people supporting queer rights, and when I see young people really advocating for understandings of ableism and disability, I think that there is no way that those young people want an autocracy or anything, obviously not an aristocracy, or anything else far right. So that gives me a lot of hope. Now, in terms of my concerns about this, is that not every young person's being brought along for the journey. We're having a lot of young people fall foul to knife crime, to county lines, and therefore the youth could see themselves in a similar dichotomy as we currently have going on now. So I think that in order for us to get to this wonderful place, we need to ensure that those young people are educated and are exposed to restorative ways of getting them back on track, not simply punitive ways where then it becomes a cycle of people just going back into prisons, and not getting a chance to participate in society because they don't see themselves in society. They don't see that there is a society for them to have a place within. And when I'm saying that, that's not to discount the rest of us who are not youth at all. And I think that's really important because our mental health is also suffering very much at the moment when you look at statistics. But it is to say that when you do look at the threats to democracy that we currently have, it's not the young people bringing it, and it's not the young people supporting it.